My team works all over the world. I needed to ensure their success on the job. I didn't need more compulsory learning and irrelevant content. I needed a way to support employees with the organization's best knowledge and materials at the exact moment that specific information is required. That's why I love Allego. Allego empowers us to onboard new hires faster, increase coaching and collaboration, launch new products and messages faster, and establish a culture of learning at lower cost and without impacting productivity.
Allego is transforming how professionals across the world learn, utilize content, and collaborate. It's become central to their success. You can achieve this too. Explore Allego today.
Hello and welcome, or welcome back to the Sales Enablement Festival. I hope you're enjoying the event so far because we've got even more great content heading your way. Remember to have your questions at the ready and get the tailored answers you need from the experts themselves. Thank you again to our sponsors and partners for helping us bring this event to life. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the content from the festival, be sure to check out the SEC membership plans. You can find more information about this over on the Sales Enablement Collective website. Sit back and enjoy the next talk.
Hi, my name is Jake Miller. I'm Senior Product Marketing Manager over here at Allego. Today, we're going to be talking about Sales Enablement Evolve. This is a really exciting time to be involved in anything to do with enabling salespeople. A lot of great innovation happening across the sales enablement technology landscape, and that's really kind of being driven by a lot of the innovation happening across sales enablement departments. So I'm going to jump into our presentation here and talk to you about Sales Enablement Evolved. So how do you unlock seller-driven growth? There's a couple of key elements that we're going to walk through in this presentation. And we've structured this to really kind of get everybody's attention here. And we're talking about things in terms of a story. And what this really is a love story between learning and content. Right, the two kind of big buckets as far as the remit of a sales enablement function. You've got the learning side of the world, where you're training, coaching, sharing knowledge, and certifying and onboarding, and all of those great things that sales enablement functions are responsible for, sharing information, communications from one department to another. And then the other side of the world of content, ensuring the right content is at the right hands of the right seller at the right point of the sales process, ensuring that content is mapped to the funnel, making sure that marketing has great feedback loop from sales on what's working and what's not. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about just generally this story. But before we jump in, want to kind of level set on a definition here. What is the goal of sales enablement? First of all, so it's to ensure that every seller has the right knowledge, skills, processes, and behaviors to optimize every interaction with buyers. This is coming from Forrester Serious Decisions. It's ensuring that salespeople can recall the right concept at the right point of a sales process, and that they can utilize the right tool, resource, or behavior to convey that piece of knowledge, right? Whether that is over video conference if they're selling, or if it's face-to-face selling and they get an objection, to be able to know how to handle it, to understand the right answer to different technical questions, to know which piece of brochure or PowerPoint or marketing material to use to convey a certain message, and to have the skills to be able to do it, that they're adhering to the methodology at whatever stage of the sales process, making sure that they get the right information in their minds from other departments who have that information, subject matter experts, et cetera, making sure they're getting the coaching they need from their manager, right? So this is all what sales enablement is. And if you look, the use of sales enablement solutions has grown by a ton over the last 3 years. This is smart selling tools. Nancy Nard and folks over there. What are the kind of the key elements of the sales enablement function? What are the remits? Well, onboarding, training, and coaching, making sure that new reps are coming on board, are getting acclimated to the culture, making sure they understand the sales process, the products, the industries, the solutions, whatever it may be, depending on the type of sale, depending on the type of products and company, getting them trained up, ramped, And then making sure that they're being provided with good coaching on an ongoing basis by your coaches in sales enablement, or managers who are doing the coaching, helping managers know how to coach, right? Part of this is onboarding, training, coaching managers as well. So this is critical. Sales content management, ensuring that all the stuff that is being created for the sales team in marketing is being used properly, that the sales team know that they know which piece to use, that they're getting recommendations of the right pieces for the different scenarios, that they understand the why behind the pieces. And then creating a feedback loop back to marketing to ensure that marketers know that which pieces are working and which aren't, which topics, which objections. Hey, is there an objection we're getting hit with all the time at a certain part of the funnel or a certain part of the process that marketing we should get them to create a case study around, or a white paper to address this, right? Steward of the sales methodology, right? Making sure that whether you're Challenger, Sandler, and any of the different sales methodologies that a company is using, and sometimes it's multiple methodologies at any given stage, or at different stages, a different methodology for different stages, making sure that the sales team is adhering. Making sure, just kind of sales, best practices. Are we closing for next steps at the end of every interaction that we have? Are we, is it part of our process? As we always lay out after the first call, here's the timeline of how things are going to go, and we have to get agreement right then and there before we do anything else. Is everybody doing that, right? This plays into coaching. Sales and interdepartmental communications. Everybody in the company wants a piece of the sales team. Everybody wants to get in front of the sales team and communicate to them, and they'll get bombarded. So it's about making sure that, marketers, subject matter experts, leaders in the company, everybody is communicating to the sales, being that filter, making sure that that they're not getting bombarded, but that they're still getting the information that they need. Sales analytics, making sure that sellers have the right competencies, that they're demonstrating the right behaviors, that we're seeing a return on our investment in our marketing material, and the sales tools and the sales content that they're using, and really sort of measuring the overall effectiveness across, who's hitting quota, what are their weak points in their process and in how they're selling, does everyone understand the messaging, and just really kind of get data to target our investments in enablement. And then systems and platforms for sales enablement, of course. So when we're talking about the love story between learning and content, right? This is when we're talking about sales enablement evolved, this is so important, because what we found across organizations that we work with, and we work with organizations across many different industries, and we kind of, being a sales enablement technology provider, have something of a central kind of bird's eye view of a lot of different enablement functions and how things work. And one of the things that we've seen is that combining your strategy for learning and training and coaching with your strategy for content management reaps the biggest benefits. Sort of the old school way of enabling sales, you had learning and content that were siloed, and they were in siloed systems too, not just siloed approaches, but siloed actual technology for managing these were siloed. It was more of a kind of one size fits all, more built for the company itself, not as much for the rep, and learning and content being separate. And this was only able to get us so far, especially in an era where everything is changing so fast. The way we sell is now changing, moving to virtual, digital selling. So this becomes more important than ever. And this is why we talk about the evolution is here. Like most change, it's driven by customers, right? Customers are changing how they want to buy. It's becoming much more focused on the salesperson has to be the guide, has to help curate the modern buyer experience. But how can we make sure that our salespeople can still be in the driver's seat while still providing the kind of buyer experience that buyers want? This is challenging, and this is part of why sales enablement has become more important than ever. And the thing is that organizations want a single platform. This is what we're seeing across the board. Organizations want a single place. Sales enablement leaders, sales enablement functions want a single place to be able to have all the reps go to for their content that they're sharing, for the tools that they're accessing, for the just-in-time kind of knowledge and information that they need to get coaching and to interact with subject matter experts. having multiple different places for that puts you at risk of not getting as much adoption by the salespeople. You're not giving them one place to go. It's more of a hassle for them. And you're gonna lose out on adoption of your approach in a given area based on the tool that you're providing, versus if you have it in a single platform, you can kind of take the technology out of the equation and then just focus on getting your content strategy, your coaching strategy, all of that, the knowledge and training that you're providing, getting that adopted and making sure that the salespeople are with that. And so, yeah, we're seeing these capabilities merge, right? And that is where all the magic happens, right? There's so many synergies beyond just that it's easier to manage, easier from an administration standpoint, user experience standpoint. And we're going to talk about that. And it puts the rep at the center. This is kind of the key point here, putting the salesperson at the center of our thinking, rather than thinking in terms of how can we get all of this done. It's how can we make this really easy for the sales rep. So what are some of the things that make it really powerful when you've got learning and content together? Well, one of the biggest challenges around providing content for salespeople that we've seen across organizations we work with is really surrounding providing context, right? We can give salespeople a repository of assets, marketing material, battle cards, case studies, white papers, everything, and making it served up at the right point in the sales process based on using artificial intelligence and based on the deal that they're in and what other users like them. But the issue has been giving them context, right? How do we make sure that they understand how they're supposed to use this asset that we're serving up to them? That's been the big disconnect when you've got two separate systems for learning and content. The learning system gives you the context. The content system gives you the tool, right? And so this is why combining them is so critical. Imagine a world where instead of a sales rep getting a recommendation for a new brochure to use at this point in the sales process, and they look at it and they go, I've never seen this before. I've never used this. I'm a little bit, iffy about trying to use something new like this. Well, what if instead we were able to serve that up paired with a 2 to 3 minute explainer video coming from another salesperson who has used that same brochure, them talking about, hey, here's how I use this. Pro tip for you, right? And that seller goes, oh, okay, I see my colleague over here uses it. I'll try it out, right? This is where you're starting to get really where you can start to really drive adoption of your content and of your messaging that you're putting out through that content. And it really supports a self-directed learning model because you've got the thing, salespeople want to hear from other salespeople. So that's who they want to learn from. And so, as far as building a culture where learning is a consistent part of everybody's job, it's about putting sellers in touch with one another and giving them that ability and doing it in that sort of indirect way where you can bottle up a best practice or an example. We've got footage coming in from sales conversations now because everything's so much is happening over video conference. And so you've got example footage of a salesperson speaking to a value prop in a really great way. Can clip that out, use artificial intelligence to tag it and pair that with the PowerPoint that they were speaking to. And then when you serve that PowerPoint up to someone else in a similar situation, they get to learn from another rep. That's where you can really start to kind of bottle up best practices from salespeople, make them available to other salespeople. It's really like an indirect form of collaboration. And it's unbelievably powerful. It's something that you can start to really, really replicate top performers, right? Everything in sales enablement is based on, top producer analysis. That should be your first step when you're thinking about how to, how do we up level our whole team? The answer is under your nose with your top performers. And so this is how you can do that. And then of course, scaling rep to rep knowledge sharing and to content, around how are these different content pieces being used? What is the best way to use it? Salespeople are a lot of times don't want to, they're creatures of habit. So they don't want to always have to try a new piece, a new brochure, whatever it might be. But if you give it with an example of another salesperson, that's like an endorsement, right? So that's a really powerful way. In the past, we've been able to provide, the content recommendations with some maybe bullet points from product marketing or others to give some, feedback on how you should speak to this or how you should use this asset. But when you can start to incorporate, a field example of another seller actually using it in the wild, or a pro tip from a subject matter expert, or or from a manager or a respected leader, it's incredibly powerful. And so this is what we're talking about when we're saying maturing past just regular content management to content activation. This is a content activation. This is where you're merging learning in with content, right? When you're activating that content with learning. Think about every piece of content that you have. You've got to think about, how can I activate that content? It's not enough to just make it available to salespeople. You've got to activate it. And that's how you can start to leveraging, crowdsourcing of these knowledge assets from other salespeople. You've got footage coming in from sales calls. You've got, if you've got a system that you're using that you can crowdsource easily using video capture, right? If you give salespeople the means to capture their insights on video, and then you can quickly, as an enablement leader, ping a few top salespeople, hey, shoot me back a 2 to 3 minute video of how you speak to this objection, or can you send me back, how you've handled this in the past, right? We want to make this available to other reps. It's an incredibly powerful means. So, when we talk about this, content management, it's table stakes. You've got to be able to organize your content. You've got to have it in a taxonomy. You've got to make sure that it's put out into playbooks. You've got to think in terms of, searching, browsing, and recommending, right? So recommending content through a prescriptive playbook that's got to, by product or situation. You've got to make a really nice, easily browsable area for salespeople to go look for stuff that they don't know what they don't know. And then search when they've got an idea of what they want. You've got to have an easy to manage search, and being able to allow them to share content with one another. And then, of course, being able to track all of this, not only allowing the seller to track it to see what's happening, to inform next best actions for follow-up, but also taking a step back globally, looking across all your asset repository and saying what's working and what's not, and being able to correlate that with business outcomes, right? Being able to see how much revenue difference is being generated when when at this part of the process this asset is used, versus all the deals that were won where that asset was not used, right? What is the revenue lift when it's used, right? Things like that these are table stakes, though. This is what we've been doing. The industry has been doing this for a number of years. But this is, again, we're still seeing adoption issues, right? We're still seeing that salespeople are adopting less than, much less than 50% of the content. They're not using it, right? That we're putting out as marketers or as content creators. It's about content activation. It's about making sure that, that salespeople have that context. And so it's activating it with just-in-time learning, right? And this is where, again, content and learning combined. And I'm going ahead and moving my pod over here. I'm not sure if you all can see that. But yeah, so just-in-time learning. And this is where we're talking about learning in the flow of, we're capturing knowledge from people in the field, from subject matter experts, and and pairing that with the piece of content. So it can start with a subject matter expert, a talk track. Hey, here's how we think this brochure should be spoken to, how it should be delivered. And then here's an example of how the deck is designed to be flowed. Right. This is how you should speak to it. This is designer's intent, right? Coming from the marketers. This is driving a lot better sales and marketing alignment. Being able to, put a face in front of a new PowerPoint or brochure or content piece that we're launching, right? Mining the call footage using conversation intelligence capabilities to get a real life example of a top salesperson using that content piece in the field, and then pairing that snippet with the content itself in the recommendation feed. So now that when the next rep going into a similar situation, they get a recommendation of the right content with an example from the field. That's incredibly powerful. A win story, right? Making it easy so that a salesperson closes a deal, the CRM pings them with a push notification on their phone. Hey, send this, capture a win report. Click here, one tap, open it up. You've got a PowerPoint loaded up in the corner, and asking them to speak to whatever you want them to speak to. Why did they win? What was the thing that pushed the deal forward? Was there a certain message or content that worked best? And they can just go, okay, and they can riff, and it makes it really easy. Do you think a salesperson is going to be more likely to type up a win report or just pop open a video, one tap, riff on it for 2-3 minutes and then send it away. And then that video was not only easy to capture, but then becomes some of the most popular content among other salespeople. And that's learning content. You can add a quiz question to that. You can add some knowledge checks. You can put that, if it's an evergreen piece of knowledge about a certain, approach that a rep took in a deal, you can put that into your onboarding course, right? This is where you're starting to see these synergies between these different parts of a platform. And then, of course, practice and coaching based on real world effectiveness of latest content. Again, which system has the data on what's hot in the market right now? The content system. The content system is interfacing with the market. You're seeing what things, what topics buyers are interacting with most, what's most, which case studies are best. Let's make sure we coach to those topics, right? If you've got the coaching in the same place, the same platform as your content, as all this data on what's hot in the market, it's so much easier to just keep your coaching operation and your coaching function up to date on what's happening out in the field. This is incredibly powerful. So the third piece here, achieving true alignment. This is, between sales and marketing, and sales enablement plays a key role in this. 70% of marketing created sales content goes unused by sellers, and it's a shame. There's so much great work that's being done, and there's so much great content, and this is where some of these means that we're talking about, where coaching to content, providing endorsements from salespeople, being that centralized place of knowledge to kind of be that filter from marketing to the sales team. This is where the sales enablement function plays such a key role. But between sales and marketing, your co-creation of content. This is a great way to, as a marketer, instead of putting out a piece and just sort of throwing it over the fence, get feedback from the sales team, kind of co-create it, get sales feedback on a new asset that you're creating, road test it with a couple sellers, make some tweaks, and kind of sculpt the pitch together, or the presentation or the brochure or whatever it might be. And that drives really great alignment. Feedback from the field, making it really easy to get feedback from salespeople. Again, using video capture. If I'm a rep and I've used a piece and I know that I've got an easy way I can pull up on my phone and send in a piece of feedback that's going to get viewed by the marketing team in a 2-minute video, that I can do a video message to just kind of speak to it. Because again, as a seller, much easier for me to just speak to something than trying to type it up. And that's incredibly valuable, and you make it really easy to do. Point in time feedback, using point in time threaded discussions on different video assets to be able to, hey, I'm going to capture a video of a PowerPoint presentation and get feedback from sales on how they think it is at different points in time throughout the video. Salespeople can engage and basically create a little comment section on each point throughout the video, on any point throughout the video, to get that feedback to the marketing team. And it's incredibly powerful. And among sellers, cloning top performers, making sure that salespeople have access to one another, making sure that you can sort of bottle up and reroute those best practices and approaches, making it really easy for them to capture their knowledge by capturing content, video content specifically, sharing best practices. If you run a messaging certification to make sure that everybody's on point with a new product or whatever it might be, taking the submission videos, and you've got a bunch of them coming in, you can use artificial intelligence to help you prioritize which ones need coaching feedback the most, and which ones are the best and which ones are the lowest performing. And let's take the best and flag that and say, hey, let's share that with others. Let's share this example into a content library of best practices for how to speak to this product or this message. That's some of the most viewed content by sales. Also, using from the recorded sales calls, clipping out a piece of the call. Hey, here was a great example, alerting their manager to say, hey, this is a great example right here. You should promote this as a best practice based on the recorded sales call. And it gets to the next topic here, scaling your people with AI. Being able to scale them, not replace them, right? We talk about maintaining the human to human connection at scale. That's what AI should be about. Anything with an AI strategy in general in business should be about that, especially when it comes to such a people-centric function as sales enablement, though. Scaling that human-to-human connection, right? 20% of sales calls are reviewed with AI virtual coaches. This percentage goes to 100%, right? Using AI virtual coaches, basically initiative-based coaches, to help scale your enablement function. This is sales enablement evolved. AI virtual coaches, you can deploy different. So a picture, you've got on a baseball team, you've got a batting coach, you've got a pitching coach, right? You can do that same thing. And those coaches, they run all throughout the year. Every game that gets played, those two coaches do different things. You can do the same thing using AI virtual coaches for selling. If you've got a product launch coach that is geared toward this one product, product X, you can have another product launch coach geared toward product Y. And for the product X product, the salespeople go through a certification, and that you've programmed that product launch, the product X coach, to know everything about product X. What should be said? How should it be said? What are the key messages? What are the key objections? And you can put that product launch, that product X coach, on the certification submissions when they're first getting certified on the messaging. Then as they get out in the field, that same coach, put that onto their, sick the coach onto their recorded sales calls, and allow the coach to give follow-up content recommendations, flag the manager, hey, the rep said something out of bounds on the messaging here for product X. We should, coach to this call, right? And that can be running the whole time. And then maybe a month or two later, you launch another product Y, and you can have a new coach now deployed just for that product Y. And so you can have both of these running at the same time. So now as the reps are out in the field, any conversations about product Y, you've got your product Y coach right there and helping to coach and provide recommendations. Product coaches on product, conversations on product X, you've got your product X coach, right? So you can have multiple coaches, and they allow you to give feedback. They allow you to give recommendations, remedial learning content. The rep said something out of bounds. The product launch coach will send a recommendation to that rep as, here, do this for follow-up. You said this, you should try this, take this course, do this reinforcement exercise, do this role play exercise. It's incredibly powerful. It helps developing skills. You can, again, role play exercises, flagging to a manager, hey, check out this call. The rep said something that they could maybe use some coaching with. It allows you to scale that human to human connection. It's not about replacing with a rep and manager. Yes, if you want to fully automate your coaching feedback, the AI virtual coaches can do that for you, but we recommend an approach where it provides more of that early warning system for you. So that way you can touch many more sales calls and coaching exercises just by jumping right to the specific part of the thing that you need to. And then finally, analyzing critical skills, critical actions and behaviors. When you've got this evolved approach, you've got more of a 360-degree view of sellers. It's not just about what content are they sharing. It's not just about how did they do on the tests and quizzing. You can now look at their behaviors. You can see what are their competencies, demonstrated competencies based on their exercises, their learning, their performance on sales calls. As well as how does that interplay with the kind of content that they send? What are what kind of topics do they generally speak to on calls, right? And then let's segment out what do the top 20% of people do? What topics do they speak to? What content pieces do they send at which points in the cycle? You can model top performers when you've got data from all these different selling activities, not just from content sharing, but from the point of sale as well. What are they speaking to? What are the knowledge assets they're checking out? What internal experts are they seeking help from? What kind of coaching are they getting? Are they getting enough coaching? All of these things that play to seller performance. And when you've got sort of this evolved approach where everything is in one, you've got these synergies. And so that is everything for our presentation today. It's about putting the salesperson at the center. Really excited to speak to you about this. Please, I'm looking forward to answering any of your questions in our Q&A coming up. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Jake, thank you so much for that presentation. That was brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, so we do have a few minutes for Q&A, so we'll jump straight into it. So the first question is, how do you make sure salespeople use the most up-to-date pieces when lots of content is always coming out?
That's a great question. So you have to attack that from multiple angles when you're thinking about ensuring salespeople use the content. Obviously you need a single source of truth for them to go to. If you've got stuff in multiple systems, salespeople just don't have time, won't adopt. Getting salespeople to adopt a single system is hard enough. If content is spread across multiple systems, that's going to create a challenge. The other, having that single source and having that also helps you as a marketer or as a content manager to make sure that they have all the most up-to-date pieces. It makes version control easier, right? It allows you to set expirations on content that has a shelf life, or to notify your team that it needs to be updated. So that's kind of one piece. The other part of this is now distributing it to them, proactively giving them recommendations. There's lots of different channels that you can do this. You've got data in CRM based on the deal that they're working. Can you surface some of the content that is going to be applicable for that situation right in the CRM where they're working? Can you use some of that data to drive recommendations within the actual content platform where they're going to look for stuff, recommending to them there, and making it really easy for them to go search and find, right? That's the other piece. Is salespeople a lot of times know what they're looking for, and so making it easy to search and browse. That's sort of the core of it. Then from there, it's about helping them understand, helping them with context, giving them an understanding of how they're supposed to go and use this, right? Don't just release a content piece to them. Give them instruction around how to use it. Give them, this content, folks, is for this situation. Here's how you might want to deliver it. Here's some talking points to go with it. So it's about giving them the making it available, making it easy to find, and then giving them that context around how to use it. That's the best way.
Yeah, great answer. And to kind of follow up on that, Sarah also asked, how do you ensure the content you create is relevant for sales?
That's a great question. So content relevancy so if you think about the content creation process, it starts out in the field, actually. It starts with a need. It starts with a prospect asking, a bunch of prospects all asking a similar question, right? Around around a new product that you've launched, or around, a new messaging or a solution, whatever it is. That drives the need for the original, creation of the content piece. Maybe it's an objection that everybody's getting hit with, and hey, let's create something to get out ahead of this in our cycles. And so that's sort of the first step of the content lifecycle. Then is brainstorming it, figuring out how, laying out what are the key points going to be that we're going to make in this piece of content. What pain are we addressing? At what point in the sales process? And then it's releasing it to the sales team, and then tracking how they use it. Staying in alignment with the sales team all throughout that whole process. That's the way that you really drive that relevance. So monitoring sales calls, seeing what prospects are saying, right? We showed conversation intelligence technology to be able to pull out what are the hot topics in the market right now, and be able to see a summary view of everything that's going on in your calls, right? That's an easy way to kind of drive more alignment with what's happening in the field from marketing and sales, what's happening in the field. There's a great source for the kind of content that we need to be making sure that we're creating. And then of course, staying in touch, with your sales team, with sales leadership, having regular cadence with them, going over, here's what are the things that we're thinking of creating based on what we've seen in a lot of sales calls and requests. So putting process around that. And then the next phase where you're, laying out, here's what we think we're going to create, get feedback from them. Before you go all the way down the road of creating something, get feedback early on in the content creation process. Loop in a couple of key members of the sales team. An approach we advocate for is, do a voiceover PowerPoint or create a video of yourself talking through it, delivering, if it's a brochure presentation, delivering it, and getting feedback. And, we've got tools that you can use and there's other tools to do this asynchronously, right? So take a video and then have people giving you feedback, so you don't have to schedule a meeting for every one of these. So that, that's at that point. And then when you're distributing it,
It's all about that, giving them context, helping them understand how to use it, understand why you created it, right? That's how you start to generate a feeling among the sales team that the content that they have is relevant, and it's on point, and it meets the things that they need today out in the field. And that's how you drive a happy sales team, and that's how you grow revenue.
Yeah, another great answer, and hopefully that answers your question. That is unfortunately all we do have time for. If anyone does have any more questions for Jake, please feel free to connect with him over on LinkedIn, and I'm sure he'll be happy to go over anything again and also continue the conversation. So with that being said, Jake, thank you so much for the presentation and taking the time to answer questions. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in, and we will see you all very soon.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks, everyone.